What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and I'm coming to you on my YouTube channel as well as the Findlay Mortgage Team's channel and Facebook as well. So I hope everyone's having a good Sunday night. And today we're going to be talking about a subject matter that I think is particularly interesting, and that's just everything to do with Bitcoin and real estate kind of merging together. So can you transact when it comes to a real estate deal in Bitcoin? And I also kind of want to view some of the history behind it because while it's going to be very popular, I think, throughout 2021 in regards to the idea of cryptocurrencies and real estate and things of that nature, it's actually been in the news cycle for quite a while. So before I bring up the stories, though, I'm going to bring up Josh and Aaron just to get their opinions on the story as well. Hey, guys, how's it going?
What's going on, Matt? Good, buddy. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Good. So I think first, before we even start talking about this, let's talk about some of our background or experience. So the first time we were really exposed to cryptocurrencies. So do you guys want to start first?
Yeah, I mean, I think it started back in 2017, a little bit before everything went actually crazy. The last kind of previous bull run we had, I was just like trading stocks, and I got into digital assets, and I kind of was like, this is pretty interesting space. It's unregulated. I took a deep dive into Reddit and stuff, and started getting into it. Obviously, the mania happened. 2018, everything went vertical, and then you got addicted to it. And then obviously, I figured out very quickly as markets correct. Markets correct in a bear and a bull cycle, and that's kind of how I ended up here. I learned about it back in 2017 and being in it pretty deep ever since.
Yeah, I think in terms of initially being active in it and learning about it, probably around the same time. I mean, I think everybody heard about it, maybe 7 or 8 years ago when it was first coming onto the scene, and people thought it was fun to use to buy pizza with and stuff like that. And now it's it's a real thing now, and the use is obviously there and becoming much more mainstream. So probably within the last 4 years is when I first got into it and really started investing into it and following it. Probably around the same time, 2017, 2018.
Nice. Yeah. And for anyone that's interested in my backstory, I really started paying attention to it in 2017, 2018 as well. We started a meetup group here in London for Bitcoin and blockchain, and then bought an ATM in early 2018, I want to say. But in theory, I'm pretty sure I heard about this back in 2012, 2013 on episodes of Dig Nation. And I can remember Kevin Rose talking about Ethereum in 2014, I think it was, or whenever it was originally out. And I remember thinking oh, that seems interesting, but just never really taking it seriously. And it's fascinating to see how quickly it's being adopted. And even this weekend, Ray Dalio was saying that it's part of a balanced portfolio at this point in time in regards to volatility. And I found only one article that actually sourced it, but I heard people saying he said up to 20% allocation for Bitcoin, which if that came out of Ray Dalio's mouth, that's a pretty huge flip from his previous perspective. And I suspect we're going to see a lot more celebrities and thought leaders flip this year. I think,
we've definitely seen in the last probably 3 to 6 months a handful of heavy hitters in the stock exchange who deal with the legacy system, adding being a little bit more favorable to digital assets in general. It's really interesting how the paradigm shifts once the money printer starts printing trillions of dollars. Inflation's a real thing, and a lot of these investors and economists are starting to realize that there really isn't a hedge against it. Mm-hmm. So they're looking at what's up next, and this is why Bitcoin essentially was created back in 2008 was because people got sick of the monetary system that we had, right? And so they had to create an asset that wasn't tied to a specific monetary system or government. And I guess as we can see, the bull run has started because of the situation that we're currently in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so before we start talking about the current bull run, I want to bring up some stories. So this was the earliest story I could find in regards to when mainstream media here in Canada was talking about people thinking of selling their houses for Bitcoin. And so, I mean, first of all, I want to give a shout out to whoever Taylor Moore is, because he was seeing a lot further than any of us, because back in 2013, he listed his property, his beautiful mountain views, for the equivalent of 405,000 Bitcoin, which, I won't bore everyone with all the details in here, but I'm pretty sure that it talks about how Bitcoin soared to $70 a coin in the article. So one, I haven't been able to find whether he actually sold it in Bitcoin or whether he got deeper into Bitcoin, but I suspect either way, he probably has some Bitcoin, and that probably served him pretty well, which is crazy. I honestly didn't realize it went that far back, like that someone was doing that. Like, I thought honestly like 2017, 2018 was when a lot of the stunts started occurring. So like, here's one where an early adopter sells his Mississauga condo in Bitcoin from March 2018, right?
Okay.
And again, like, I didn't realize, it was 445,000. So he sold for 35 Bitcoin. So like, fascinating to think, like, did he actually keep those Bitcoin? Because I'm pretty sure, like, don't get me wrong, that condo's probably appreciated a lot.
Yeah.
But I suspect Bitcoin has
2.1
outpaced this condo.
US.
What would that be?
It's like 2.1 million US at the moment. Like,
yeah. So again, just fascinating to see some of those different aspects here. And then again, this is I believe the same one. So the 35 Bitcoin sale, which is just fascinating. Recently, it's been in the news again where an Okanagan man is trading his house for Bitcoin. So it's just fascinating to see these, like, now it's about worth 850, but he's getting 12.25 Bitcoin instead of, 3 years ago, you would have got 3 times the Bitcoin for half the house. Just some fascinating little insights there. So again, to me, I don't think that we're on the verge of seeing everyone trading their houses in Bitcoin, but like, it is an interesting aspect. And so before we maybe get into talking about how the big banks and all that works with Bitcoin, I thought I'd just kind of find, how currently can some people actually be able to buy a house in Bitcoin? And so there is BTC Home. I haven't done a lot of due diligence here, so if you guys get scammed out of your house, that's not on me. But essentially, kind of skimming through this, what they offer here is, if you're willing to buy a house in Bitcoin, they'll essentially buy it at the spot price right before the transaction in order to help it transpire. And then they'll just give the fiat to the closing agent or to the lawyer and have the transaction clear that way. And what I thought was really good that I wanted to share with everyone here is, can I pay with other cryptos? So this is a direct quote from their website. Bitcoin is the single biggest cryptocurrency that has proven track record and the only crypto that has a feature-complete product. While we recognize Ethereum, Litecoin, or Bitcoin Cash may have their uses supplementing Bitcoin in some cases, we may accept these altcoins as payment method depending on the macroeconomic landscape at the time of the transaction. Having said that, we will not accept most ERC20 pump and dump tokens that are issued for the sole purpose of creating a Ponzi scheme. So again, it was just hilarious to read that literally in this on this website, where essentially, again, it seems like this was a brokerage. So originally just a real estate brokerage established in 2011, and now they've kind of rebranded or pivoted themselves to not only be a real estate brokerage, but a brokerage that treats Bitcoin holders as actual VIP clients and provides this as a potential service. So I thought that was really cool. So I'm going to throw this out here for anyone that's looking to buy our wholesale deals. We'll be the first wholesale real estate company in Canada that's down to transact in Bitcoin. So if you guys want to pay your wholesale fees in Bitcoin, we'll absolutely do that. I've got no issues doing that. But again, it's just fascinating. There's definitely a couple Reddit threads and stuff where people are just discussing the taxes and consequences there. And I think it is important for everyone to understand, just because you buy the house and transact in Bitcoin doesn't mean a taxable event won't occur. Mm-hmm. So let's say you bought those Bitcoins back when they were $10 a Bitcoin, and now you're selling them when maybe they're $70,000 a Bitcoin, or you're transacting in the real estate when it's $70,000 a Bitcoin. Well, if let's say I'm buying a shack for $70,000, I can use one Bitcoin. Even though I'm just giving a Bitcoin and I haven't converted it to fiat, it will actually still trigger a taxable event. So I'm still going to have to pay capital gains on my Bitcoin from the $10 to the $70,000 per coin. So really important for anyone that's actually thinking about doing this, please sit down with a tax accountant first and really walk through the potential consequences here. Because I think a lot of people are going to assume that this is a smart way, maybe a way to game the system or get around the taxes. And no, you'll actually have a taxable event. So odds are, if you're going to be buying a house in Bitcoin and let's say you're in the money, as in it's worth more now today than it wasn't when you originally acquired it, you'll likely actually have to like sell or trade more of your Bitcoin, because you're also going to need some money to pay the tax consequences there. So again, just important people be aware of the full aspects there. And then finally, what I really wanted to explore with you guys is, how would this work if we actually just wanted to do it with a bank? So maybe I've got some Bitcoin, but not enough Bitcoin to buy the house outright.
Yeah. So we've actually, Aaron and I have seen a ton of applications come in probably within the last 6 months, where as we list, so when we take an application, we take all of your assets. And we primarily didn't see a whole lot of digital assets for the last few years. But recently, in the last 6 months, we've seen people claiming their digital assets on their asset and portion of their application, and it's not a little bit either. People are looking at, a few hundred, $300,000, $400,000 in digital assets. So we're starting to see a paradigm shift here, where a lot of people are starting to see these assets as actual assets you can claim on a personal net worth statement, which is really interesting to see. As generations kind of move into this space, what they're looking at as down payment sources. So we actually reached out to we're working on a deal right now with a client who is looking to use his Bitcoin as a down payment. Now he's on the fence just because the upside might be a little bit more than just using his cash or a line of credit, but he does want to use this source as a down payment. So we decided to reach out to a handful of different banks and talk to them about what their specific parameters are in regards to down payments. So for anybody who doesn't know, you need 90 days history of your down payment source for a conventional loan. So banks, usually what happens is if you have an asset, say in a trading account, like a Tesla stock or whatever it may be, and you wanted to sell that, you would essentially need 90 days history on that specific asset. So when you bought it, when you sold it, they could trace what that looks like. Well, unfortunately, digital assets aren't really regulated at the moment in Canada. There are some frameworks in the government around taxes and implications of that, but when it comes to these financial institutions diving deep and trying to source where that is, they're kind of lost when it comes to the exchanges, whether you use Binance or Coinbase or whatever that is. They don't use that as a down payment source. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to actually sell the crypto, transfer it to your bank account, and then the clock starts ticking once it hits your bank account. So you have 90 days of gestation in your bank account before you can use that cash for a down payment. And the reason for that is it's for money laundering laws. So Canada has very specific anti-money laundering laws, and the 90-day history period allows a lender or the banks enough time to be able to catch illicit transactions. And currently, because there is no framework around these assets at the moment and how they necessarily work, the bank just isn't comfortable with using the transaction history of the exchange that you're using to buy and sell these assets on. So at the moment, 90 days in your bank account. So start planning out if you want to buy a house and you want to use your down payment sources, digital assets at the moment. To be honest, we were one of the first people to call the banks and talk to them about it. So I don't know how many of these transactions they've actually completed. I know the bull run started like 3 or 4 months ago, so there's probably some lights clicking off in a few people's heads at the moment using their newfound cash to buy a property. But at the moment, it's not crazy prevalent.
Yeah, I suspect it's something that we're going to start to see more of. And like Josh said, in the last 6 months, we've seen a lot of it. And that's actually the second, right? Didn't we close one where someone actually had the proof of down payment? They had it in there. He wanted to use it for down payment. Wasn't there a first one? I know we had a couple that actually were looking to use it as a down payment source. So it's becoming more prevalent. We're starting to see more of it on the application. And I think as the society in general becomes more aware of it and we start seeing it more. I mean, I've seen way more commercial now, especially on like large sporting events for crypto, digital currency type payment systems and platforms. It's obviously becoming much more mainstream now. And obviously, as more people are aware of it, it's going to become a more common use of down payment and assets. I mean, if we can start to use it as some of the net worth programs that are out there as well too, we might be able to utilize just the net value of it as an asset versus having to potentially sell it and cash out. But that's kind of a whole different product that we can talk about at some other point.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys breaking that down. And then one other aspect I wanted to explain to the audience was, if, let's say, for whatever reason, you wanted to be able to buy the house in Bitcoin, but then be able to mortgage an aspect of it or finance, tap into that equity. I think likely the best sequence of events in that scenario is simply buy, close in Bitcoin or close in fiat and convert to the spot price whenever you decide, close on the property. Then after a short period of time, it shouldn't be too difficult to go back and refinance the property, right? Or finance it essentially for the first time now that we own it outright clear and take it to the bank.
That's correct. So I mean, obviously there are gestation periods as to how long you can just like, if you close on a house in cash, there are some questions asked if you try to refinance 3 months out. But if you essentially waited a little bit of time until the bank was comfortable with the value and there was no anti-money laundering flags being raised, you shouldn't have any problem qualifying for a conventional loan. And as Matt said previously, it's most likely just a transaction between your lawyer and the seller's or the buyer's lawyer, or seller's lawyer. So that'd be, contractual between them. It wouldn't really have anything to do with the bank itself. Now, one of the things that, the infrastructure isn't quite there yet, just in regards to how lawyers or financial institutions are going to facilitate these transactions. There are probably going to be third-party custody solutions out there at some point, specifically for these real estate transactions. And as we see the growth of this asset class, you're going to see the growth in these, third-party companies being produced, and it's going to bring in a whole nother realm of real estate transactions. And, I kind of wanted to bring up, NFTs as well. I know we were talking about it previously, but as you kind of introduce this space into real estate, you start to think of these really cool ideas that you can do. Like what happens when, a house turns into an NFT or an asset turns into an NFT. It's pretty exciting place to where we're going, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. The tokenization or the ability for fractional ownership of real estate definitely could bring in a lot of liquidity into that market. And at the same time, talking about NFTs, it'll be interesting to see if and when ever will that add to your balance sheet, right? So like, let's say that I've got a CryptoPunk right now in my personal holdings, and the lowest one is traded for, 5 figures USD. If and when will the banks actually allow you to view that as a valuable holding, right?
It's as long as it's a verified. I think eventually it's going to be hybrids. These banks are going to have to grow into this massive amount of wealth creation, and eventually it's going to be verified assets. It's going to be a lot like a bank account. You're going to have a virtual account essentially, and all that account is going to be verifiable through the blockchain, and you're going to eventually all these things that hold value and are liquid and have an actual secondary market or initial market, all this value will be transactable. Everything will be as liquid as just making a transaction instantly. You'll be able to trade gold for food and your NFT for a phone and whatever you'd like. So eventually the banks are going to have to get on board. It's just a matter of when do they just want to tell people they're already in it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, like I just naturally start thinking about all the different sort of finance or credit products that will eventually evolve based upon these things as well, right? Like there's already a few ways that, in particular, if you're comfortable handing over your keys, that you can lend out your Bitcoin, right, and earn a certain return and things of that nature. But again, as the Lightning Network evolves and people continue to use that more, and just all the other aspects on different blockchains as well, I think there's going to be some real innovation in this space. But also, I think people need to understand that I think just doing these things for the sake of it probably is dangerous for the layman. So I think transacting in real estate with Bitcoin just for the sake of it, as an outsider, if this is the first time you're getting into Bitcoin, not really going to recommend that. That sounds very dangerous and scary, and you're probably not going to be comfortable with the roller coaster. But I think there is a lot of people, like some of the stories I shared earlier, that have been in Bitcoin since 2013, that have been in Bitcoin since 2016, 2017, 2018, and so on. And a lot of those individuals may want to start really transacting more and more in Bitcoin. And again, there's going to be so many opportunities in this space, but I don't think that we necessarily have to always try and be the first.
Right. Yeah. There's something to be said about, not reinventing the wheel and just, building upon it and making it better too. And I think there's so much more advantages that are going to come along with this when we take a look at just what the blockchain is and being able to verify and validate things. When we take a look at, mortgage applications and stuff like that, what is that going to do for an application process when you have your, your identifying key and we're able to verify everything that way? And how do applications and these large transactions, grow as they move forward when we're able to use a key identifier for someone to verify all their banking and personal information versus taking these applications? You take a look at fraud and minimizing fraud and what that does for the market and cost as well too. And I think there's going to be a lot more other synergistic things that come with this as it starts to grow and advance as well too. And not simply just being able to use it and purchase it and the financial value of the coin as itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone's listening to us right now, just kind of chat about Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain, so on. What are some of your favorite resources, guys? Where do you learn about this? How do you stay on top of it?
Sure. Yeah, no, when I first started, I read it, just be active in these forums. Like I know it sounds kind of cheesy, cliche, but you have a lot of like-minded people who are looking into and researching the same type of assets. Those people may know more than you or may have access to, news that you don't have access to or don't have time searching. So a great way to take a look at that is Reddit, join some forums, take a look, understand the assets you purchase. Obviously the valuations of some assets currently right now are not sustainable, as everybody knows. If you see thousands of percent in gains, that's not consistent with a healthy market. That is a speculative bull run. And there are higher lows throughout these market cycles. And as we continue to build validity in the space, eventually these asset markets will become mature and you won't have as much volatility. But until then, this isn't like, don't put 100% of your net worth into some coin that's pumping 10,000%. It's not going to be sustainable. You're going to get burned. And that's kind of, the stigma that's happened right now. A lot of retail investors got burned pretty bad back in 2017 and 18. And I think it's taken up to now for people to kind of get better. And hopefully, you guys invest in assets that actually have some either real utility, or add some sort of benefit. Do your research in regards to who the teams are behind some of these assets, if they do have dev teams and stuff. And a lot of them are trying to focus on a very specific issue or solution to an issue. So, choose things that you think are going to, be prevalent in our new world that is coming up. And this new tech is going to be revolutionary. So it's just a matter of doing your research and figuring that out. But Reddit, maybe YouTube.
Yeah, and you can read the white papers as well to, do your own due diligence.
It scares me the number of people on my team that I'm like, hey, I heard you're into crypto. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what coin are you doing? And they'll say a coin. I'll be like, what's the white paper like? And they're like, what's a white paper?
Oh, no.
And I'm just like, okay, we're gambling. Cool.
Yeah.
All in black, baby. Yeah. Let's go.
No, I mean, Elon talked about Dogecoin. I thought it'd be a really good thing to invest in.
Keep going there. Sorry, about white papers.
No, I mean, just doing your own research. There are unfortunately people out there in this space who, will troll you and will talk about things that, you should not listen to directly as advice, and just doing your own research and making sure there is utility, because that's really where the value for these things is going to be derived from long term. Is what system was this, originally created for, regardless of how the current utility is. What is it meant to do, and how is it going to be used, and what process and problem is it going to fix long term? Not just, is this just a coin that seems to be pumping, and hey, if I get in right now I might make some money, because that's, you're just really senseless gambling at that point. And you might make some money, but you might lose a lot of money as well too, where that, that initial white paper, that's going to lay out the entire, what problem are we looking to solve, how is it going to be implemented. That really dives into the utility and the coin itself. And that's really where you should really start. And then start listening to these forums and seeing what people are thinking and what are they reading from the markets, and then what kind of things are going on in the economy, supply chain type problems, bank processing powers, all these things where they're going to be implemented in, just what's happening, what's going on, and why is the market moving? What's correlated with it?
But it also is some gambling. Just
For
you
sure.
guys, you could lose it all, guys. Like it definitely isn't a guaranteed thing. And as I said before, the regulations that are coming, it's going to be good for the space, but it might not be good for the thing that you're currently invested in. The Securities Exchange Commission, SEC, has the ability to crush a lot of these projects at the moment. So, as regulation comes out, it might be good for long-term health of the space, but it might also be good if you're extremely leveraged in a position on an asset that might be a security.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's one other thing to be really aware of when you're getting into this space. There's a lot of different individuals with vested interests. And so make sure that you're also verifying the source of the information you're getting it from. Yeah. So again, especially a lot of these newer projects, they often have like legit PR teams. Some of them are backed by VC money with deep pockets. And so again, it can be very easy to find yourself in an echo chamber or hype cycle that is a PR team that they're able to kind of push things. It seems a bit more aggressive with these PR teams than you could say do on a traditional roadshow if you were pitching an IPO or a direct listing or something of that nature.
Yeah. And pay attention to who their active industry partners are as well too. What are the real current world, uses and who's using it and who are they teaming up with? And if you see big legitimate names that, and trust and you can see that implementation, that's going to give you more insight into, hey, does this coin actually have, utilization and proper uses, or is this possibly a meme coin that people are just talking about and seeing how they can affect it?
Yeah, 100%. And if anyone else is looking for resources, a few other things I'd recommend is I think Clubhouse is a really great ecosystem right now. So encourage anyone to jump on there. Also, Twitter is a great spot just to start finding ways to be linked to other articles. And there is a handful of really solid influencers in the space as well. I think one of the Canadians is BTC Sessions. He just recently had a amazing interview with a bunch of well-known names, including Michael Saylor on his YouTube channel. I think it was Friday or Saturday night they did it. So that's like a 2 or 3 hour long discussion with some of the best minds in Bitcoin. So there's some amazing content out there. It's often not well curated. Mm-hmm. And I think in part it's because the assumption is a lot of the people in this space are a little bit more accustomed to navigating the internet. So I think, again, the more comfortable you get just playing on the internet, the easier it is to start finding this information and making connections in the space as well.
Yeah, and it's a lot to learn about too. If you take a look at the entire blockchain, evolution in and of itself, and it's how it's going to be used, and the altcoins and the stable coins that are coming from it, it's a lot. And just it's one of those things where you're going to have to invest some time in to really understand the entire process and how it started and what the end game looks like. So not really something that you should kind of expect to spend a weekend on and fully understand how to invest and trade on it, but the outcomes of understanding it are going to be potentially life-changing situations. So.
For sure. I think the legitimacy of the space, can even be echoed through what we saw last week at the IPO with Coinbase. Over $100 billion valuation. It's unprecedented when you go and take a look at what other conventional legacy, like the NASDAQ, like the New York Stock Exchange, the actual market cap on these corporations are minimal compared to what Coinbase just IPO'd at, which kind of reflects where the market sentiment is at the moment. Now, whether I'm saying invest in it or not is another story, but I think the legitimacy around the space is growing, and as it grows, there might be some bumps along the way, but I think it's here to stay. And as you said in your channel before, Stack Sats, if you guys are worried about where we're going with the economy, or where we're going with inflation, like high single-digit inflation in a year, what they're telling you. I mean, I don't want to get conspiracy theory on this, but we don't have 1% inflation, guys. Sorry to burst your bubble. The grapes that you bought 6 months ago for $1 are now $2. So, keep your eyes open. If you think that this is something that you want to spend your money on, I recommend it. I'm sure Matt recommends it as well, and so does Aaron.
Yeah, I think the real key is don't, especially when you're getting started, don't put money in that you're afraid to lose, because that's when you're going to make emotional decisions. And like, there was a great opportunity today to make an emotional decision and panic sell. And I'm sure lots of people did or got caught in like automatic stop losses or things of that nature. And again, if you're really like comfortable with the concept here, if you understand that this is potentially an inflation hedge, I like the idea of putting 1% of your net worth in it, or 1% of your liquid net worth if you want to start even smaller. But just put 1% in there, pay a little bit of attention. And again, you can do this slowly over time. You don't need to panic buy into it unless you've decided the entire system's going to crumble, and in which case you do you. But I think that there is going to be continuing mounting concerns in regards to inflation and the printing press. And so again, I think that it's just better to start learning now. And again, even if you decide to start learning about it and you decide this is not the right choice for you as an investment, it's better that you learn deep into it, decide that, and then you can ignore it for the rest of your life if you so choose. Although I think you do so at your own peril.
Agreed.
I completely agree. Do your research. Money is money, guys, and you very possibly might lose it. From the top of the last bull run, to the very bottom of when it hit about $3,000 last March, it was like almost 90% drawback. So it does happen. Yeah, and it's a highly volatile space. So if you are, if you're uncomfortable with your variable rate mortgage, it might not be, there's going to be ups and there's really big downs, and there's also really big ups, but it's, you got to really know what you're in this for. If you're in this for the long run, it's just like real estate in a sense where it's a buy and hold. You can't get shaky as soon as the market starts to correct a little bit. You got to keep your 5-year, 3-year, 10-year goal in mind, and just understand there's going to be ups and downs, and a lot of them throughout that process. And, if you don't like that, you either can't get into it, or you got to learn to change up your mentality and what your purpose is with investing.
Yeah, 100% agree. All right, guys. Well, this was a lot of fun. I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention to the audience, but I feel like I've kind of got everything I need to say about buying a house with Bitcoin, as well as just some general best practices in regards to learn more about it. So any last words? Yeah, I mean, if you guys do find yourself in a situation where you are going to have a ton of crypto gains and you think it is prudent for you to sell those gains and buy a house, feel free to give us a call. We have some lenders that can definitely help you, but invest safely. Yeah, and definitely talk to someone before you go firm if you're looking to use Bitcoin. If there's any time I would not not that I ever recommend it, but this is definitely the one time I would say really do not just jump in firm on an offer and expecting to have Bitcoin, smoothly transact. And if you are, also just remember, like we said, you're looking at a 3-month period from when you sold to holding that fiat currency in your bank. This isn't going to be hey, I got to close on this property in 3 weeks. I want to sell my Bitcoin and use it as a down payment. So just, keep that timeline in mind. And it's something that you're going to have to plan out a few months ahead of time before you make any transactions with that. Yeah. And again, make sure you really understand the tax consequences, because you may have less money to play with than you realize, or you may be in for a really hard surprise come tax season. So again, lots of opportunity in the space, everyone. It's just important you understand what you're doing. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button, hit subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're new here. And if you haven't jumped over to the Findlay's mortgage team, definitely jump over, give them a subscribe, guys. And you guys do this every Sunday at 6 p.m., right? Yes, sir. We do. Every Sunday. Awesome. So you guys can find them next Sunday, same time, same space. Yep. See you guys. Thanks, Matt. See you, Matt.